90% of restaurants focus on the wrong things. And this is so true. We've worked with over 300 restaurants worldwide. I've probably had a conversation with close to 1,000 restaurant owners. And every time we talk to them, they're focused on the wrong things. And so today we want to get that aligned. What is a successful business model? Okay? Successful business model. I want to start a business. So what I would do is I would look for a huge demand in the market that no one's meeting. I would create a product that would meet that demand, and then I would sell that product to the market. Pretty basic, right? Yeah. Demand, big demand. I create the product that meets that demand. I sell that demand. Make sense? Okay. If we think like everyone else, we're going to get average results. Is there a shortage of restaurants in this town? No. Is there a shortage of good food? Is there a shortage of good hospitality? Yes. Okay. So there's not a shortage of restaurants. There seems to be a dispute if there's a shortage of good food, but I'll give you an example. I came down here yesterday, and I looked up on my phone where to find food, and I felt confident that the place I picked would give good food. I went there, they did. I was not confident whatsoever they would give me good hospitality, right? And it was okay. It was decent. It wasn't bad. Very transactional. They didn't do anything wrong. But they didn't do a lot of stuff right. And my point is that you can find good food if you can seek it, right? If I gave you guys each $100, said I'll give you $100 if you find a place that has good food, you can find a place that has good food. If I gave you $100 and said go look on your phone and find a place that has good hospitality, it's a crapshoot, right? You're gonna be flipping a coin at best. So we have a demand in the market, and that's hospitality. People are seeking it more than ever because it's so rare. Not just in restaurants, but in businesses in general. When I got the phone to call my bank, I basically am thinking, I just hope they don't piss me off. I just hope they really don't piss me off, and I hope they actually solve my simple problem. That's how bad hospitality is, and that's what we want to get to. We want to be known for our hospitality, not our food. We're not competing in that market. We're competing in the market of hospitality. Because if we can win in that market, then we will separate ourselves from everyone easily. And it's already showing in your numbers, right? You have one location here that has 4.8 in a review. Someone just told me today, someone walked in and said they chose the restaurant because it's a 4.8. Someone told me today that they're waiting an hour for a table, and they said, well, of course it's an hour. You guys almost have 5-point rating. That's the psychology that goes into ratings, but more importantly, it's all because of hospitality. You cannot get a 4.8 without having good hospitality. You can't. So we want to separate ourselves with hospitality. Who do you think's in charge of that? Yes, you guys are. Say it one more time. Who's in charge of that? We are. Yes, you guys are. You guys are strictly in charge of that. Tom gave you guys the keys. Every single person in this room. Busters, you're part of that. You guys get that, right? So we want to give hospitality at any level that we're at. Anybody here is responsible of it. Hospitality is so key and it's so important, okay? So one thing I want to do is have a paradigm shift. So your paradigm is what you see, right? Everybody's perspective on life, everyone's, is different. Right? Every single person in this room has a different perspective. Every person in the world has a different perspective on the world because of their past. Your perspective is completely shaped by your past experiences, right? Whatever happened to you in the past has shaped the way you see things. So imagine you have a light on your head and it illuminates exactly what you're looking at. That's everyone's perspective on life. When you have a paradigm shift, it's when you have this moment where you just do this. And it just slowly lights up other perspectives in life that you never saw before. That's what we want to have today. We want to just move it a little bit to the left, move a little bit to the right, and start seeing things that we haven't seen before, seeing the world in ways we haven't seen it before, getting perspectives that we didn't have before in order to be more successful. So, infinite versus finite mindset. Can anybody tell me what infinite means? Long term. Infinite mindset. Okay, what does finite mean? Short, limited, right? We all have a finite amount of energy every single day before we have to go to bed, right? Before our body just gives out, our mind gives out, we have to go to sleep. Infinite is long term. I want to give you an example. Has anybody ever heard of the Microsoft Zune? Microsoft Zune. Raise your hand above your head if you've heard of the Microsoft Zune before. 1, 2, 3, 4 people in a room of 50 have heard of the Microsoft Zune. So one person out of 50 has a Microsoft Zune. I'll tell you what the Microsoft Zune is. Apple came out with the iPod, right? The very first iPod, and changed the world forever. You could put 2,000 songs in your pocket. It was so easy to use. It was so well built. It was like an amazing product. And at the time, Apple was this tiny business, and Microsoft was this huge entity. And it propelled Apple to be a huge competitor to Microsoft almost overnight. Microsoft knew they had a problem, and it was the iPod. And they said, this is what we're going to do. We're a big company, so we're going to just dedicate a bunch of resources and people and time, and we're going to make something better than the iPod. So they went to work. It took them forever. It took them a lot of money, a lot of engineering, a lot of manpower, but they did it. They created the iPod killer. The Microsoft Zune had more memory, better built, better screen, better battery life. It was better in every single way. Too late to the market. So that's why no one's ever heard of it. What came out 6 months later? The iPhone. The iPhone came out 6 months later and made music players obsolete. Who was Microsoft competing with? Apple. Microsoft was competing with Apple to beat the iPod. Who was Apple competing with? Themselves. Apple was competing with themselves. Apple wasn't worried about building a better iPod. Apple was worried about building the next revolutionary, game-changing, world-changing product, which was the iPhone. Changed the world again. They changed the world again. And that's what I want to encourage you guys to do, is have that mentality, right? Have that mentality, the infinite mentality. Who are you competing with? Yourselves. You're competing with yourselves every day. You should ask yourself every single day, how have I become better? How have I gotten better from yesterday? How did I beat my yesterday self, right? Has anybody ever heard of Kaizen? Kaizen? Japanese philosophy of getting better. 1% better every single day. 1% better every day, right? We're not trying to go on that diet. We're going to cut out carbs, sugar, work out 3 times a day, only for a year to hit our goals, because you'll quit in 3 days, right? At least I will. Why don't you just cut out carbs for the weekend? And then we'll move to sugar on the weekends, and we'll work out once a week, and then twice a week, and then gradually get better. By the time we get to 365 days, we'll be way ahead of ourselves if we try to do this giant thing. So all we want to focus on is getting 1% better every day. Do you guys agree with that? Right? How do we get 1% better every day with hospitality? How do we get 1% better at our jobs? How do we get 1% better at giving that hospitality? How do we get 1% better at getting those reviews? 1% better every single day. So, infinite versus finite. Is this decision a finite mindset or an infinite mindset? Am I thinking about the future, or am I just thinking about right now? Because that's going to be the difference. That's going to be the difference maker. Do you have to make finite decisions? Yes, of course. But you can also incorporate infinite decisions with that. Do you guys agree with that? Yes. Now, if you see underneath there, what it says is, knowledge is not power. Knowledge with action is power. If you have the knowledge and you don't take action, then that knowledge is useless. If there's a guy who's been studying Kung Fu for 6 years, reading books, and there's a guy who's been studying Kung Fu by going into the dojo and actually practicing it, who would you put your money on in a fight? The dojo guy, the guy taking action. It doesn't matter if you have the knowledge if you don't apply the action. I want to talk about this 80-20. So this means 80% of problems that you have in work are, and outside of work, honestly, are psychological, 20% are execution. It's not about resources, it's about being resourceful. I have this all the time with managers. I was this too, and sometimes it does take some thinking, right? Some processes, but 80% of your problems that you think you can't overcome are psychological, right? I need another server. We're short-staffed. I need this tool. We need more money. We need X. We need Y. We need Z. And then I can accomplish my goal. Then I can hit that goal. But if you actually think it through, you'll realize if you be resourceful, that you can get your goal without having to have the resources you think you need. And that's going to be really important in life in general to execute. When your servers have an issue, who do they come to? And the managers fix the problem. You find a solution, correct? How do you guys problem solve? Being resourceful, right? And same with you guys. You guys have to be resourceful instead of saying, hey, I need this thing to be able to solve this problem. Instead, it's like, why don't you take that next level and say, I don't need to go to Tom. I'm going to be resourceful. I'm going to figure this problem out myself. Really, really important. And this is a great example. Has anybody seen the movie The Matrix? Raise your hand above your head if you've seen the movie The Matrix. Raise your hand above your head if you've seen The Matrix Reloaded, the second Matrix. Nice. Which one was better? The first one, right? By far. It's not even a competition. I've seen The Matrix like 50 times. I think I've seen Reloaded like twice. The funny part about it is The Matrix had a $90 million budget, which is a very small budget for a movie of that scope. So the directors had to get super resourceful on how they shot things, in becoming creative. And it gave the movie this really, really, really nice charm that is irreplaceable. The Matrix Reloaded, because The Matrix was successful, they said, here's $180 million. Do whatever you want. How much money do you need? Let's just make this thing. It's going to make money. We don't care. We'll invest in it. And because they had all the resources, for some reason, the movie became exponentially worse. And that's an actual CGI shot of the movie. Like, that's from the movie. It looks absolutely terrible. It's not about resources, it's about being resourceful. So I want to start by giving you guys some tools. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Any of these at all? Not enough time in the day, I'm too busy, short-staffed, or I'm wearing too many hats. Raise your hand above your head if one of those relates to you. And if you're in the leadership group and you're not raising your hands, I'm going to call shenanigans. So again, that's talking about being resourceful and not relying on resources. That's what we're going to talk about today. It's not the size of the problem, it's a mindset around it, right? If you have a problem, it's not usually the size of the problem, it's your mindset around that problem and how to solve it. So when we create all of this stuff, and what we want to do together is we want to break everything down to simply stupid, which means it's so simply stupid that you have to do it. It's that easy, right? You guys okay with that? We want to break everything down into small pieces until it's digestible, and we can solve these big problems using small problems first. Small wins turn into big wins. Do you guys agree with that? Yes. You guys really agree with that? Yes. All right. So your day-to-day grind is misaligning you. Okay, and this happens all the time, right? Especially with leaders, but even with servers, with bussers, because you come in with a goal, right? Manager, you get hired on, you start a goal. I'm like, I want to change this place, right? Tom started with a goal. I have a vision, I want to change this place. But as you come into work every single day and you deal with the day-to-day problems, which are pretty consistent, correct, with the restaurant? So you're going to keep going. All of a sudden you get misaligned and you forget why you're doing it. And all of a sudden you're jaded and you're frustrated and you're relying on resources and not being resourceful. And you forget why you started in the first place. It's kind of like when you're in a relationship, right? The first time you come over and she's like, can you take out the trash for me, by the way? And you're like, yeah, no problem. You take it out and you're like, hey, I cleaned your trash cans, by the way. They were dirty. And then like 3 years later, she's like, can you take out the trash? And I'm like, I'm working. You take out the trash. Right? Because I get misaligned. I forget how much I wanted to marry my beautiful wife. But I forget that, right? And I have to get aligned. Oh my God, this is why I married her. I wanted this. I'm lucky. Yes, I'll take out the trash. Absolutely. Got to get realigned. So that's really important. And misalignment's natural. Your daily grind pulls you off course and even sends small alignments to lead you to wrong choices, right? Small misalignments lead you to the wrong choices. You start making the wrong choices for the wrong reasons. You should ask yourself this every day, these 4 questions before you go into work, every single day. It's the easiest way to realign yourself. Why am I doing this? What's my motivation? Why did I start? And why do I want to keep going? So I'm sure you guys see this a lot, especially as leaders, but maybe even server. Are you guys all servers here? So as servers, you could probably see this too, where you see someone get hired and they're like, oh man, new server, I'm freaking pumped. I'm going to be the best server ever. They're all excited. They're all about it. You're talking about hospitality. They get it. They love it. They know it. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later comes by and they're like the most painful person to work with. And you're like, what happened? What happened from month 1 to month 6? I don't get it, right? What happened? And the problem is that we don't have these in place, right? Which is what Tom is working on. And you guys have a lot of this in place. You might have all of it in place by now. But this is the 5 phases that you want to focus on if you want to run a really good restaurant as a leader. Advanced leadership, high-level systems, dynamic training, follow-up. Follow-up is everything. And accountability is everything. What's at the top? Leadership. Okay? But this is what most restaurants and businesses are missing. Follow-up and accountability. I just trained someone for 7 or 10 days. Are we following up with them? Are we following up to make sure that they're giving that hospitality experience? Are we following up to make sure they're asking for reviews? Are we following up to make sure they're honoring a first-time guest? Are we following up to make sure they're honoring a returning guest? Are we following up to make sure that they're doing their job to the best of their abilities? And then accountability. Are we holding them accountable? Are we actually holding them accountable when they don't do the right thing? You have to hold people accountable across the board. That's what true accountability looks like. When you don't hold people accountable across the board, and then you start holding people accountable when you just get fed up with it, that's where all the pushback and friction comes from, right? Because all of a sudden you're holding them accountable when you weren't before. They're going to take it personal now. All of a sudden it's an attack. I do this all the time, and now you're going to hold me accountable? Or you let Jennifer over there do it all the time? Or you let John over there do it all the time, and now you're holding me accountable? That's why holding people accountable consistently across the board is everything. It makes those conversations so much easier.